Hello everybody. Unfortunately cannot be there with you, but I hope this video, I don't think I'm gonna fool anyone into thinking this is a live stream. It's not. I'm actually pre-recording that. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, the situation is somewhat weird, let's say, in these times, but hopefully you'll find this still interesting. My name is Audrius Janulis. I'm an industry manager for startups and export here at Google. And in the next 15 minutes or so, I will give you my overview on what we are seeing in Baltics when it comes to startups, how we are helping early and growth stage startups succeed. And maybe one thing that Baltic founders often forget and maybe downplay, which we believe is not the best thing to do. So today I really want to talk about the unfair competitive advantage marketing. So to start it off, I want to use a quote by Mantas Mikuckas, who's a COO of Vinted. Vinted is the new unicorn, fresh unicorn from Lithuania. And back in 2016, he said, "We have always believed that a product should be fantastically good and such products don't need advertising. But we see many examples where the winner is not the best product, but rather the best advertised one." Also, he added, "We understand that highly concentrated marketing is one of the elements that we definitely need to strengthen." He said it in 2016, and here's a snapshot from Google Trends what happened next. Vinted definitely refocused their marketing efforts, and that led to tremendous success. That led to the new round that they raised, and that led to a valuation of 1 billion. As we see, that took some time for them to realize. But this is definitely something that we see a lot in Baltics, and this is something that we are actually trying to address. So Google Baltics team is a small team of roughly 10 people, which is focusing on helping customers grow with Google Ads. However, there's only a short list of companies that the team is able to focus on, and those are actually startups, super successful startups like TransferWise, Bolt, Pipedrive, NordVPN. These are the companies that build global products, that are deploying their products globally, and that means, of course, big investments in marketing. So that's where, if we look at this green square on the right, that's where our Google Baltics team is focusing a lot. They're talking to these customers essentially on a daily basis to figure out what's the next best strategy for them to employ. My role here is actually looking one step back and looking at the next wave of younger stage and growth stage companies that can in near future become as big as those guys, so that they would be again entering this square, green square, and being served by our in-country team. So I've been spending maybe 1.5 years lately talking to Baltic founders, and there's definitely a pattern that I noticed, and it definitely resonates with the quote that I showed you before, where Baltic founders, for whatever reason, they don't prefer marketing, they don't prefer advertising, and some of them actually believe it's kind of almost like cheating. So that's where I try to focus with those founders, to change their mind to some degree and provide them expertise into how they should be thinking about their marketing. We developed some sort of playbook or a framework how companies should tackle it, and I call it sort of bottoms-up approach. That means they should start from the most effective campaigns and move up the funnel. Also, it's another insight that a lot of Israeli companies actually noticed. Bottoms-up work for B2B because you do not only reach C-level decision makers, but also reach the end users who become brand ambassadors and really voice their opinions when the decision around certain tools to be adopted within a company is being made. So I want to give you a sneak peek into the framework that we're using. It's a really sort of dumbed down version that I try to deliver in 10 minutes or less. But here's what it looks like. 4 tips, and I'll try to break it down for you, starting with hire an analyst. Really, that's one of the most often tip that I give to young stage startups. If you heard the song by Buzz Larman where he says, if I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it. I like to jokingly rephrase it and say, data analyst would be it. This is the foundation for everything. You need to be really good with your own data. You need to be able to collect, clean, and analyze the data and make everything measurable. If you cannot measure, you cannot improve. And this is very, very crucial in these days when a lot of marketing tools becoming more and more automated. Once you have person and expertise that's really good with data, next step is about picking your battles. We see a lot of founders make a mistake and tackle the most competitive markets like USA or UK, and they underestimate the amount of marketing budgets and expertise needed in tackling those markets. So a lot of our work with Baltic founders go into preparing custom analysis for them, analyzing where the demand for their product and for their category is really at, and what's the dynamics of the competition. So this is an example of a slide we prepared for one of the young stage B2C companies. They were thinking about expanding in UK, but we showed them that UK, although it's a huge market for their product, it's actually the most expensive one and the most competitive one. You cannot really access such information on your own, but you can access Google Trends, which is a public tool and has a lot of insights into, trends, seasonalities, dynamics of certain things that people search online. I highly encourage you adopt it and use it for doing analysis on your own. But if you feel this is lacking, you can always reach out to us and maybe we will lend you a hand in developing a custom analysis for you. Next step is an advice that we give to Baltic founders is naturally max out Google search. Just to give you an idea, Monday.com, a project management tool, has dominated search in a way where you kind of need to go to the 4th page on mobile on Google to actually read anything about Monday as a weekday. Everything else is covered by their brand, which is, I believe, a great strategy. When you think about it, think that search has a flow of customers that are in demand for your product or your category. You want to capture as much as you can there. Of course, the competition is there. They're trying to do the same. So really what gives you an edge is using the best practices from Google. And that's usually has a lot to do about automation and, machine learning and artificial intelligence advancements in those techniques has really led to the situation where a lot of marketing tools are becoming more and more automated. So believing in that and utilizing that is really key. But automation works as good as the data you input into it. Again, this is really crucial to have someone within your team that's really good with data and is able to estimate real economic value that your product is creating. So in this case, you need to be really able to analyze what's the lifetime value of your customer. If you're able to estimate that and send it back to the automated systems, that's all there is to it, to be honest. It's all about how good you are with your own data, how good you're able to estimate it, and whether you're able to apply the best practices on marketing tools. That's it. But once you cover the search, you need to go beyond that. You need to step into the upper funnel activities. That's where the branding lies. And for that, we have the 4th step in our playbook, which we call Dare to be the Purple Cow. So firstly, it's about being somewhat different. We see a lot of companies in Baltics that are kind of gray and, to be honest, a bit boring. And they could be so much more. They could be standing out from the crowd so much more. Sadly, right now, they're just being one of many. But we try to encourage them to become someone different. Again, maybe coming back to the example of Monday.com, not everyone is aware that 2-3 years ago, they used to be called The Pulse. Probably a name that none of you heard before. And that's, again, Monday.com is just being somewhat edgier and makes you wonder, how come they're called this, Monday.com? You kind of get this hook for trying to know more about them. Another great example is MailChimp. When MailChimp started, they were a huge underdog because there were already big enterprises in the category. So when they started, Constant Contact was a public company already. They were huge in market cap. And it seemed, they don't really stand a chance. But by being bold, by building their brand, actually they managed to outgrow their competition and outgrew the category itself. So MailChimp definitely became a top of mind when people think about marketing platforms. That's really what being a purple cow is all about, being in top of your mind. Because when people searching for the product, they usually go either with top 3 candidates that they already have in their, mental capacity, or of course they rely on search to find alternatives. And of course you want to cover both of those areas. So by being a bit, being able to stand out from the crowd already gives you some competitive edge, but also you really need to build the brand. And what a better way to do that than with video? Of course, we have YouTube, which is a great platform for that. Again, I'm using an example from Monday.com. I'm pretty sure you've seen a bunch of their ads, but probably you've seen many others like eToro, Wix, Grammarly. A lot of companies understood that you need to cater not only to the decision makers, but also to the end users. So they would voice their opinions, again, bottoms up. Full funnel marketing activities do work because they fuel everything. Again, if you think about search, there's a limited amount of demand there. The category might be growing, but it also might be shrinking. Branding allows you to go beyond the borders and sort of build the demand for your product. So a good ratio is to have a 40-60 approach where 40% of your budgets are going into branding activities and 60 is going into direct response activities and activation. A recent analysis by a guy called Les Binet was done where they proved that increasing amount of brand searches on Google is actually an indicator for how market share of that company will act in near future. This is definitely a technique that a lot of customers, our customers are already adopting, and this is something I recommend younger stage companies doing also. When creating a video, it's also really important to make it work. 50 or even more % of the success in branding activities on YouTube depend on the creative. Again, we have a framework for that, which we call ABCD. You really need to nail your message. You need to attract the customer. You need to vocalize and show your brand. You need to find a connection with the audience. But lastly, and most importantly, you need to direct them. You need to tell them what you want them to do. Do you want them to download your app? Do you want them to visit your website or search for you on Google? All is possible. Also, it's really crucial to deliver this message within the first 5 seconds, because that's when skip button shows up, and that's when you lose the attention essentially. So few examples of good creatives are here.
You need a website. Why not do it yourself? With Wix, you can create your own professional website.
And another one by Fiverr.
Need a logo? If you're a doer like Olivia, check out Fiverr. Not a doer? Check out this gerbil eating a...
Pretty fun, right? It has a tone, it has value clearly communicated to the user. You understand that, okay, this tool is needed for website development. This is a freelancer marketplace, but it's also kind of quirky and fun, and you definitely remember it next time. So that's all there is to it, to be honest. These 4 easy steps, of course, if you go deeper, it goes a bit more complicated than that. But the underlying message that I want to share with you today is that advertising and marketing is really, really important in this competitive environment that we find ourselves these days. And if you're not doing it, or you're doing it wrong, then you are losing to your competition. So building expertise in marketing, building your expertise in creative, and being a bit bolder than the rest of the folks, I think that what drives an unfair competitive advantage. Thanks for your attention so far, and I look forward to seeing you in our one-on-one interactions in the near future. Thank you.